Welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. We believe life is about how we react. Welcome back to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. Thanks for listening. This is Kyle, and I've got Sean here with me. Sean, how is everything going with your recent injury?
Everything is moving along quite well. In fact, by the time this airs, I'll be 1 day away from being home. So this is coming out Monday, and I'll be home Tuesday evening. I'm looking forward. I'm already out of the rehab hospital and getting ready to start traveling back to California. So I'm looking forward to being home. It feels good to not be in a hospital bed and, to be at home or in a house and be, a little bit of
fresh air.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How's it gonna feel to sleep in your own
I
bed?
Can't wait. A couple of things I'm looking forward to the most is my own bed, my clothes. I've been pretty limited with just what was in my suitcase. Yeah. And maybe a few articles that you and Felicia, some other friends picked up for me. So bed, clothes, and my home brewed coffee. I'm looking forward to brewing my own coffee and enjoying my, I'm not going to be working for a while. So I'm going to get up, have a coffee, and just relax for a while.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
All right, what do we have on tap for our listeners today?
So this is a pretty exciting episode. We, you and I, we've kind of had in the bag for several weeks, but we've been looking forward to releasing it. A lot of our listeners are gonna know our friend Sam Bridgman. He's kind of an all-star in the FA community and is just an amazing person. Well, him and his girlfriend, they've been together for 4 or 5 months. About 5 months now. Yeah. And they met through an online dating app. And you and I have talked briefly about dating and, how to go about all this. And, we've talked with different chronic illness or people dealing with chronic illness about the best way to date and meet people despite, so much. We decided to get them on the phone and dig into their relationship and the process they've gone through over the last several months to A, get connected, B, meet, and then connect so well that 4 or 5 months into it, they're still together. They're wildly close. So we're gonna meet Emily Burnham, and a lot of our listeners are gonna meet Sam Bridgman, and we're gonna talk about their relationship and their journey through online dating.
All right, enjoy the episode. Okay, so we have Sam Bridgman and Emily on the phone today. You guys, welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast.
Thanks for having us. We're honored to be here.
We are.
Absolutely. So, obviously, like we mentioned, today we're talking about the world of online dating, and you guys are a great topic, or not topic, great subjects for this topic, not only because we love you and you guys are amazing people, but also because you met through some online dating services and your relationship has blossomed starting from an online dating app. So you guys are great sources of information for our listeners today. So thank you so much for agreeing to get on the phone with us. Sean, real quick, I think you're right. This is going to be really great for our listeners, but I'm interested too. Like, this is a conversation for me. Yeah. So I want to figure out how to get this done for myself. I was thinking you and I, Kyle and I, could give some online dating advice maybe, but we have not been successful maybe, so we've had to look beyond. ourselves to get
Yep.
somebody that actually has some maybe good advice to offer.
Yep.
So you're saying you guys are going to be taking notes?
Oh, absolutely.
That's all we do. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Taking notes.
I'm sitting here right now. We typically record morning time for me, being on the West Coast. Kyle's a couple hours ahead on the East Coast. And Sam and Emily, we had the privilege of hanging out in Seattle a month or so ago. And Sam, I love your family. In fact, your dad talked about how he listened to an episode of ours and he went out and bought some corksicle cups, the wine
Yeah.
cup, lids, everything. Okay. Well, when we were at your house a while back, he had served me a cup of coffee in this corksicle with the lid and everything. And it was so mind blowing to me. This is how I'm confessing of how tunnel visioned I am sometimes and really short minded, because I never ever thought about putting anything in my corksicle cup other than wine.
Really?
And when he served me a cup of coffee, A, it had a lid, and B, it stayed warmer longer.
Yeah.
It has changed my life.
Wow.
So
The
please
Power of
tell your-
podcast.
yeah, right. Tell your dad I said thank you, because I'm sitting here right now enjoying my cup of coffee in a corksicle, and it's been warm for more than 20 minutes, which is phenomenal.
Booyah. Booyah.
See, I'm the opposite. I've never put anything in it other than coffee. So maybe I should.
Broaden your
Maybe I should
horizons.
start doing the wine.
Try it. Try it. It's,
You guys, it can
the power
keep
of
things
science.
warm or cold. Either way.
Yeah.
And it all washes out in the dishwasher.
It's very versatile.
the things you learned.
Yep.
All right, so we want to know about you guys. So for the sake of our listeners, Emily, we're going to start with you. Will you mind giving us a brief introduction or overview of yourself?
Sure. My name is Emily Burnham. I grew up in central Washington State. And currently I work as a pediatric nurse. And I have been living in Seattle for about 3 years. Most of my family is from this area. And Sam and I met about 4 months ago, and through him I have met both of you, Sean and Kyle, and the greater FA community as well. It's been wonderful.
Emily, how old are you?
I'm 29. Sorry, forgot to mention that.
That's
29.
all right. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Sam, you are up. I know a lot of our listeners are going to know who you are, but some won't. And for the sake of everybody especially in the FA world and maybe a little bit beyond, Sam's like a superstar. So
He
we're
is.
honored to have Sam today. Sam, tell us a little bit about your story, yourself, your journey.
I don't know so much about the superstar part, but I'll take it. So my name is Sam Bridgman. I grew up in Seattle, Washington, and I was diagnosed with FA at 15, and I am currently 28 years old. And just like Emily said, we met on Bumble about 4 months ago, and it's been great so far. So it led us to talking to you guys. So
Yep.
what can be better?
No. True story.
Awesome. Sam, real quick, just what do you do? Emily said she's a nurse. What do you do, and how'd you get there? Just real quick so everyone knows.
Yeah, so I went to grad school at USF in Tampa for sports management, and got my MBA as well. And I currently work for NHL Seattle with Todd Lewicki, who is a big supporter of FARA, and I think he's either part of the board or an honorary part of the board. I'm not sure, but so it's been great.
He's an awesome guy, and you and I got to have coffee with him when we were up there. You probably see him a lot more than most of us do, but yeah, he's a really great guy.
Yeah, it's kind of surreal to just see him kind of in his element every day, just working and making sports in Seattle happen. So.
Yeah, man, that's cool.
As if there aren't enough sports in Seattle. I mean,
You can never have
what
enough
else?
sports.
What else does that?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Nice. So, Sam, you mentioned that you and Emily met on Bumble, and Bumble is it's kind of like Tinder, but it's actually, it was invented by the person who invented Tinder, I believe. But the key with Bumble is that the girl has to make the first move. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, I think it's billed as the feminist Tinder. The founder of Bumble saw how Tinder worked and thought, hey, I think I can make this a little bit more, I guess, approachable and less intimidating for women. And so she started Bumble, and essentially it functions a lot like Tinder, except that the woman, has to initiate the conversation when you match as a couple. So when Sam and I matched, in order for us to communicate with each other on the app, I had to start the conversation, and then, either person can communicate from there.
Sam, what drew you to Bumble? Why did you think that was the best app to use?
I don't know if I thought it was the best app to use. I just wanted to kind of try different dating apps and see, because I wasn't having as much luck on other dating apps. So I just had heard Bumble was a good app, and I had heard people had found other people on there, so I thought it was a great app to try. And I believe it's headquartered in Portland, Oregon, and Portland, Oregon has a place in my heart. So that was kind of my connection to it.
No offense to Sam or that question or even Bumble or guys in general. But Kyle, I feel like all guys try all apps, no matter what. Like yeah. there's no distinction as to why. It's just a matter of, if there are girls on the app, I'm gonna try it.
Yeah. You know what? Actually, I'll change my question to Sam. How many apps did you have going at once when this happened?
So there were multiple going, for sure. But I don't know if we want to get into that.
I think to maybe make Sam feel a little bit better, I was on 2 different apps, and I think Sam kind of hit the nail on the head a little bit earlier when he said that he had heard that Bumble was a good app to use. I think that a lot of what any of us know about dating apps, because it is somewhat a new way of meeting people, or at least maybe not a new way, but a more, I guess, embraced way by society to meet people, is through friends, through people that we know, through, I guess, what you'd call quote-unquote success stories. And so I think none of us are experts, but we definitely go off the advice that we get from people who have tried different apps.
Sure. Yeah. So I want to get into it just a little bit more. When it comes to dating and apps, Sam, I don't want to tell your story for you, so feel free to cut me off whenever. But Kyle and I have known you for like 13 years now, or somewhere around there. For our listeners' sake, we know that you are are fairly dependent on your family. And Emily, you used a wheelchair pretty full time. So, Emily, what I'm curious about, when you and Sam matched, how much of his personal story did you know? So before you initiated the conversation, I assume you may have spent time looking at some pictures and maybe reading some sort of bio. What did you know before you sent him or opened that line of communication?
Sure. So my memory of seeing Sam's profile was he had a mix of pictures of himself, pictures where I guess you would say that the wheelchair wasn't visible, and then ones where it was. And I think what I noticed right off the bat was his smile. And there was several pictures. I mean, he was smiling in all of the pictures, but there were several pictures of him laughing. And I think anyone who's ever met Sam will attest to the fact that he has one of the most genuine, infectious laughs the world has ever known. And I think even just seeing a picture of that, not hearing it, I could see that. And I think what struck me was the smile, the laugh, and then in his pictures, most of them are of him with people, and it looked like he had a really neat friend group from the pictures that I saw, a great community, and I think those three things were what stood out to me. He just looked like a genuine person who had good friends, and I think that, for me, says a lot about somebody at first glance. I've never been anyone else but me, so it's a little bit hard for me to dig into what I was thinking and feeling as in regards to the wheelchair, because it didn't really, I guess it didn't really figure into my decision to match with him.
Sure.
And I don't know if that has to do with my job or just my experience in life, but I didn't really see the wheelchair. I just saw the laughter and the smile and the friends, and thought, this guy seems like a neat person to know, and I'd like to get to know him better.
Yeah. What about because you were telling me at one point your coworker looked me up to make sure that I was an okay person to go meet.
So you're not a serial killer?
And I think that's exactly. I think that's a very common thing that people do, is tell their friends where they're going, or like I'll tell my friend, my Sheriff Gore, that I'll let him know that I'm going on a date, and I'll just check in at a certain time. And Emily had told me a story about her coworker kind of looking me up, and she saw a lot of the FA stuff online. Emily, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, that came after we had connected, we had matched, and I had asked him a question. I wish I remembered what his profile said, but I'm sure it says something about sports, and I think I delved into the conversation with him regarding that, asked him about what sports were his favorite, and if he supported Seattle sports teams, not knowing quite the irony of that question. But we had been talking for a little bit, and like Sam said, I think that there's some good ways of safely approaching dating apps, since you really don't know very much about the person when you connect with them. And I think Sam had asked me if we could text, and I'm not quite sure if that's how I found out his last name, but my friend looked him up, and she was able to stumble upon, I guess, his online presence in the FA community. Good information for me to have. I think, though, what ended up being more important was when he and I talked about it. Since, I mean, I knew he was in a wheelchair, but I didn't know why.
Mm.
And so,
Did you guys talk about that initially face to face, or was that all over messaging and text?
So when we were talking on Bumble, we had talked for a few weeks, I think, and she had mentioned that she was a nurse at Children's Hospital. So she works with kids with neuromuscular diseases. So I was like, okay, so she'd probably be okay with me telling her. So over Bumble, actually, I told her about FA and how, like when I don't know if I told her how when I was diagnosed or not, but she asked a few questions, and she mentioned to me later that she was actually kind of relieved that I had told her about it because she was wondering, and she was going back and forth between whether she should ask me or not, and kind of the fact of me telling her before she had to ask was kind of me addressing the, I guess, elephant in the room.
It seems practical because, you know what, if someone's going to be scared away by that, then you should just move on, right? Like, you shouldn't be nervous about it because put it out there. If the person runs for it, then fine, go, leave. Like, let's move on to the next person because ultimately you want to find someone who's okay with who you are, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I think for me, I was struggling with, I guess I felt, having not met him in person, I was worried about asking him then thinking that it was a deal breaker for me, which it wasn't. And so I think I was just worried what he would think about me asking, I guess, why he was in a wheelchair. But then at the same time, I was worried about not asking because then I was worried that he would think that I was avoiding the subject, that I didn't care, which is almost worse. And then I guess I was just trying to take cues from him about how and when he told his story. And I was talking to both of my friends, the ones that found him online for me, and found out about the FA community. But they knew and were good friends with a gentleman who was a quadriplegic, and they said that in talking to him about his dating experiences, he said that he liked it when people asked about why he was in a wheelchair, and so they encouraged me to ask him. He just beat me to it.
I think. Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
It's probably important just to realize that it's an awkward situation for both parties, you know, and so you both just need to tackle it together, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think also, like, everyone's different and everyone approaches it differently. So I think some people are okay with people asking about the disability, but some people just don't really want to do that right away. And either way is fine, but I just think it's really helpful for me just to put it out there.
My friends told me, Sam thought this was really funny when I told him later. Maybe it's not so much, but my friends told me that the way I should ask him about it was to ask how long he and his wheelchair had been together and how they met.
That's funny. It's cute.
How'd that go?
I didn't get to ask him because he told me, but later I told him, I was like, this is how they told me I should have asked you. And he's like, oh, that is kind of funny. Too bad you didn't get to use it. But maybe someone else will someday.
Yeah, right.
Use that
so,
line.
Sam, let's dig into your side of the story a little bit. We know Emily didn't seem to care about the wheelchair. She just saw your smile and your community. How did you approach online dating, and maybe how did you build your profile? What are some of the mental and emotional barriers, if any, you may have faced?
I think when I was younger, around like 22, and like on Tinder, and I think that was before Bumble was a thing. I was more worried about what the girl would think. So I would play around with my pictures. I wouldn't really change the words in my profile. I just kept it to a minimum and said like I like sports or whatever. But I would play around with the pictures, and it was kind of like a social experiment where for a month I would put like 5 pictures with all pictures without the wheelchair and not showing my disability at all. And when I would do that, I would get a lot more matches and a lot more girls would talk to me, which I thought was kind of unfortunate, but that's just kind of the way it is. There's not really much I can do to change that. And then I would, like the next month, I would do all pictures with me in a wheelchair, or at least the first picture with me visibly in a wheelchair. And I would get significantly less matches when I would do that. And then I would also try doing, like, for example, 5 pictures without the wheelchair, and the last picture would be of me in the wheelchair. And my thinking on that was not everyone swipes to the end of the pictures. So maybe.
Yep, I don't.
So, did you ever have a situation where the girl like didn't even know at all until you met her, and then was it weird? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Did you ever meet someone and they found out for the first time that you were in a wheelchair?
So I had one situation like that where the girl and I had talked it was in Portland, and the girl and I had been talking for 3 or 4 weeks, maybe. And then we met at, I think it was some Oktoberfest thing, some beer garden, and I hadn't even told her that I was in a wheelchair. I think she may have guessed from the pictures, because I was kind of lower than all my friends. But I told her right, like, 5 minutes before we met, and she could have thought differently, but she was fine with it, and she was more focused on getting to know me, and we ended up going on like 4 or 5 dates, which was cool for me, for her not to like get mad at me for that. But most times I would tell the person after about 2 weeks of talking online that I was in a wheelchair. I wouldn't necessarily tell them about the FA. I would just mention the wheelchair.
So I've got a question for all 3 of you. Kyle, you are in a wheelchair most of the time as well. Emily, for all intents and purposes, you're pretty able-bodied individual.
Yeah.
What are your guys' philosophies on? Do you reveal that? Is it unfair if you don't? Does it not matter if you do or don't? Like, how do you wrestle? How have you, especially Kyle and Sam, I guess, how have you? How do you think about that?
For me, I mean, I think it's just tough. Like I was saying before, it's a tough situation because, you know, obviously you want the person to see you and not the wheelchair, but you also don't want to like have something come out of left field that like sort of ruins the mood or whatever, right? So, I mean, I think I've come down to the fact that it's just better to have it up front, but I think ultimately it's up to the individual to navigate that one. That's my thoughts.
Sam, what about you?
I kind of think the same thing as Kyle, but I also, like, when I would not post any pictures of me in the wheelchair, I would end up thinking about whether I should tell them for like 3 or 4 days, like going back and forth. And I think it would take a lot of my time and energy just thinking about that, when it's really not that big of an issue in the first place, because they're either gonna like you or not like you, and that should not really, the wheelchair should not be as big of an issue on that.
So,
but when I would post the picture of me in the wheelchair, then that would just kind of, I wouldn't even have to say anything about it. It'd already be out there.
we want to get a little bit into how your relationship is now and how it's gone in the last 4 months. But before we do that, I want to ask one more question. To me, it occurs to me that online dating at some level is a numbers game. You just got to go and do it a lot and just put yourself out there, right? So I wanted to ask both of you, how many dates did you go on before this relationship came together? Not you guys together. How many
like
dates
dating
with
other people?
Yeah.
29 years worth and 28 years worth.
Dude.
That's a lot of dates.
Too many.
I can't even think of a number. I mean, and one of the things I think people say who, or at least the women who I've talked to about online dating, is you kind of go through phases of it where you're going on maybe a date each weeknight, maybe 1 or 2 on Saturday, and you do that for maybe a couple weeks, and then you just can't keep up that level of dating, and then you turn off the app for like 2 months, and then after a couple months you think, oh, maybe I should check this out again. And so it's kind of cyclical and not always constant enough to know how many people you meet that way, I would say. And it sounds like that's somewhat Sam's story as well, that he would try it a certain way with pictures or how his profile was set up, see how that went, then try it again later.
So you guys don't have like a list of all the people that you dated, like on your wall and with like check marks and X's through them and stuff like that?
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare. A living nightmare.
Sounds like 1995 is what that sounds like.
I mean, I don't know how Sam feels about this, so I guess I hate to throw him under the bus this way, but I think one thing that I noticed immediately after just talking with him felt very different from any of my previous experiences, and I would say really from the moment that we matched, it felt a lot different from any of other experiences that I've had. And I think that ended up kind of eclipsing past experiences, which was really encouraging. So,
yeah. One thing I'm thinking about right now, in particular with the two of you in your relationship, you mentioned early on that it's only been 4 months or so. And being around you guys about a month ago, you guys seem to be really close. And to be as close as you are in just 3 months' time, I feel like is pretty impressive. So one of the questions that's been in my head, especially with you guys, is wondering, did you guys get super close really fast because you just seemed to click? Or do you think that you had to get close because of the circumstances and the differences between the two of you? Like, the only way it's going to work is if we're both very comfortable with, say, needing help to go to the bathroom or whatever else, eating dinner. What do you think has caused you to get real close as fast as you guys have gotten as close as you are?
I think it's both. I think I felt like I clicked with Sam right away. going to our first date, I think I was the most excited to meet someone that I had been dating before, just because in talking to each other, it was easy. It was comfortable. I was excited to meet him in person, and that just kind of continued after we met. I felt really safe, and like I could be myself around him, and we always seemed to have a lot of fun, and I think that just continued. And then I thought he did a really good job of being straightforward and also easing me into, like you were saying, like needing help to go to the bathroom or, just navigating his life. And I think each kind of step of the way of him involving me in that made us closer too.
So, Sam, I'm making the assumption that you guys got real close real fast. Sam, from your perspective, was that something that was intentional? Like, did you tell her more sooner than maybe you told other dates, or was there a bit of a natural click between the two of you?
I think there was more of a natural click between the two of us, and I think we just, like she said, we would have fun, and we still have fun hanging out together, and just, even if we're not doing much, or if we have a full day of plans, we can just do whatever and have fun and laugh and all that good stuff. So, but I also think that it definitely did bring us closer with me needing help. Like a lot of the things that I need help, big things that I need help with, are getting dressed and putting on socks and shoes and my pants. And that's something that she was able to help me with pretty much right away, without her saying anything. And I also think that her being a nurse, and especially dealing with kids who have neuromuscular diseases, much like FA, that kind of eased her into it as well. Like it already brought her. She was already comfortable with that. So that was good.
So the overall thing I hear you guys saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that it sounds like by approaching all of the difficulties objectively, like, hey, I need help with my socks. All right, let's do that. Like, let's do that so that we can get on to the important things, like connecting as a person, like doing things together. Like, let's tackle these tough things, get them out of the way, and then let's move on to what's important. And I really respect that about you guys, and it gives me a hope for me finding someone as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say, though, like, real quick, when I'm helping Sam, like, I don't really think about it as helping. It feels more like it's a continuation of hanging out. Maybe that is why we, connected, is because we were spending time together doing something that I guess a lot of couples spend apart. But really, like, we're talking, we're hanging out. Yeah.
So.
It just sort of feels like a organic, like, natural part of, like, our day, I guess. Would be how I describe it.
I know we've stolen you guys for quite some time already today, but there is one story for sure I want you guys to share, not only because I think it's powerful in terms of your relationship and getting over certain barriers, but also because I find it humorous. And I want you to share it with our listeners. When we were all together, you told us a story about how y'all went to a bar one day or one night, and Sam had to go to the bathroom, and this particular bar didn't have the ability for Sam to use the restroom. safely. So, would one of you mind maybe breaking that down and sharing that story with our listeners? And what I want you to start with is, what date was it for you guys? I think this was pretty early on.
It was early on, yeah. But we were officially dating. So we were quote unquote official, I guess. About a month and a half into our relationship, we went to an arcade bar with her brother and her brother's girlfriend, and like Sean said, the bathroom was not accessible. So I came out of the bathroom and asked one of the arcade room employees if there was another bathroom that I could use. And she was kind of rude to me and gave me like a weird look and just walked away. So I kind of wanted to get back at her for kind of being rude to me, I guess, and for not having an accessible bathroom. So I decided that I wanted to just take my pants off in the middle of the bar, just to get back at the arcade bar a little bit. So I was gonna stand up. I was gonna use one of the back of the arcade games to like kind of hold on to and stand up, and then Emily could pull my pants down, and then I would roll over to the bathroom and do my thing. But Emily's brother kind of looked at us, and he was like, "You want some what?" So
her brother was looking at you because you guys actually started this process, right? Like you began to stand and start to adjust your pants.
Exactly. I think I already had the mud button.
He like rolled over to me after he had figured out that the bathroom situation was less than ideal, and he said, I knew that he had to go to the bathroom, and so when he came back so quickly, I thought, maybe he needs my help, or maybe we just need to leave and go home and do our business elsewhere. And he said, no, I can use the bathroom, but I'm going to need you to help me take my pants down. And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do that. And
I didn't really explain it.
Yeah, I started to head to the bathroom. He's like, no, we're going to do that here. And I'm like, here in the middle of the bar? Here? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, and in my head, I'm thinking maybe this is easier. I mean, I'm here for this if it's going to be more convenient and safer. And so I said, okay, yeah, let's get it done. And I said, maybe we could go around the corner and find somewhere less centrally located. He's like, no, I want to do it here.
And
so
usually
Emily's trying to be reasonable and somewhat appropriate, and Sam's like, no, I want to pull my pants down right here, right now.
Well, and he finally said, he's like, they don't, the bathroom isn't accessible, and when I talked to an employee, they didn't seem to care, so I kind of want to like stick it to the man and pull down my pants in the middle of the bar. And I kind of paused, and I was like, oh boy, this feels like a moral conundrum. Or not moral, but yeah, this is a sticky situation.
And just to be clear, that I did just want to get back at the employee that was being rude to me. Just to put it in their face and just kind of make a point that they need accessible bathrooms. And usually I would use the sink in the bathroom to stand up, but it was one of those sinks that hooks onto the wall, and it was kind of flimsy, so if I pulled on it, it would most likely come out of the wall.
And that would have been really not good.
So you were doing them a favor by pulling your pants down.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't accidentally demolish their bathroom.
Yeah.
So Sam and I were preparing for this, I guess, to be arrested for public indecency, and so I was starting to unbutton his pants, and my brother popped up over my shoulder and was like, "What you guys doing?" And I said, "Oh, Sam has to go to the bathroom," and my brother looked at us both very confused and said, "Yeah, the bathroom's that way." And
Yeah.
we explained it, and he ended up, I don't know that he totally understood, and so he offered to help Sam.
Well, we had dinner with her brother Danny on Friday night, and we talked about that, and he said if he knew everything, he would have been down
Yeah.
to do that.
He would have helped.
Next time you can plan on just
Yep.
going in there and taking your pants off in the middle of the bar.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh gosh.
I think that kind of speaks to, though, I mean, for me, I've never thought about where curb cuts are until I met Sam
And grab bars.
and Grab Bars, and now I think about it all the time, and I wish that was something that everybody thought about and that I had thought about before dating someone with a disability or knowing someone with a disability. And I would like to think that if we all thought about it more, that this world would be more accessible and safer.
True.
Yeah, we certainly have a ways to go. I'm sure in some regard, our society, especially in North America, we've made some headway, but I think everybody can attest that there's still room for improvement in the world of accessibility. So,
Yeah.
Agreed.
Good stuff. All right. Well, Sam and Emily, it always is, but it has been a particular pleasure today to talk to you guys. Thanks so much for sharing your perspective with us and with our listeners. And it was value packed and laughter packed as well. So thank you so much.
great job, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for having us on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast.
Find us online at twodisableddudes.com and please subscribe on the iTunes. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And special thanks to our audio producer, Jake Tompkins.
Until next time, keep living with urgency.